So the point is that they were people of Fatra, which is Ahlul Fatra, or the people before prophets. They're in between prophets. Or they did not have a message that came to them. Those are Ahlul Fatra. And technically, according to Imam al-Ghazali, and this is the opinion that I prefer, but Allahu Alam, I mean, who am I to prefer an opinion? I'm not making that, I'm telling you what my heart inclines towards. Abu Hamid in Faisal al-Tafriqa, which is a beautiful book, and it was also translated into English for people that are interested in reading it. The Boundaries of Toleration, Dr. Jackson translated. There's another good translation of it too, also, that was published by Pons Vitae. But in that book, he says that the Ahlul Fatra, that the people who are living even today, who have not heard the message of Islam, have the same ruling as the people of Ahlul Fatra. In other words, they will not be judged or taken into account. And even the people, he goes as far to say, and he stops, it's a very interesting text, he indicates that he had some openings, Imam al-Ghazali, and you will see this in his writings. Imam al-Ghazali is a profoundly spiritual writer. He's one of the few ulama that when he writes, you really feel his presence. I mean, many of the ulama, when they write books, they're absent. But he is somebody who, not only does he talk directly to you, but he often talks to you in the first person, like this is me talking to you. So in that book, he says that in the akhirah will not be different from this world, in that the majority of people in this world have enough blessing to where they want to continue living. They don't commit suicide. But there are people that life becomes so unbearable that they actually do want to leave the world. He said the akhirah will be similar, that the majority of people will be in a state that will be pleasing for them, even the people that have to go through a punishment. And there is a hadith even that Imam Sakhawi mentions that, again, it's not something that you can base a creed on, but I think when Allah is described as Arham ar-Rahimin, that means something. I mean, Ibn Hazm took it to the degree where he had to actually say it doesn't mean what it means. I mean, that in his trying to deal with punishment and with fire and all these things, he said it means whatever Allah wants it to mean, but it doesn't mean Arham ar-Rahimin to what we know. Well, that's Ibn Hazm's opinion and his attempt at dealing with that. There are other attempts at dealing with this problem, and it's an important problem. It's a human problem. It's a theological problem, what they call in the West theodicy. It's very complicated, but I think for us as people living in this postmodern era, we're dealing with people that are having a more and more difficult time dealing with pre-modern religion. And part of the reason why they're having a hard time dealing with it is because of things like the Old Testament, of things like certain aspects of the religion. Now, on the one hand, we don't want to water down the religion until it loses its meaning and import. And on the other hand, we want people to embrace the religion and to be able to accept the religion as true. And ultimately that La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is the single most important thing in our view of what this religion is about. For people just to be able to say that and to believe it is an incredible gift. To have Tawheed is an incredible gift. And so in dealing with that, we have ulama like Ibn Taymiyyah, who in one narration actually comes to the conclusion that the fire has to eventually extinguish in order for that to be consistent with Arham ar-Rahimin. And he uses certain traditions from some of the Salaf, and also he bases on labithina fiha ahqaba, that they are dwell in it. Ahqaba, hiqab is 80 years, and so ahqab is the plural of it. So it would indicate, but there are other verses, khalidina fiha abada. He makes interpretation of those. Our opinion, not my opinion, but the opinion of our school, and our teachers, and the dominant opinion is that khalidina fiha abada means exactly what it means, abiding therein forever. Ibn Arabi attempted to deal with this problem by saying that the people, the adab would become adab, that the punishment would eventually contract and become sweet, and he called them nariyin, that they were people that it became elemental to them, that they were people that were of the fire, ashabul jahim, that was their element, they were in their proper element. And so initially it would be terrible, and then eventually it would actually, they would fall into their element. These are attempts at dealing with this theological problem. That's the only point I'm making, is that you have somebody as conservative as Ibn Taymiyyah grappling with the same problem as somebody as, I mean, he's also conservative, Ibn Arabi, to be fair to him, because he's a Zahiri and he's very staunch in his fiqh, but philosophically he was quite open-minded. And so you have these two views. And I think Imam al-Ghazali, to me, is between these two. That's why I like his view the best. And it's a bit heterodox, to be honest. It's not, I wouldn't say it's completely orthodox, his view, but I think it just, to me, it resonates with the time we're living in a way that I feel that we can explain Islam to people in a way that they understand it, and it's rooted in our tradition. It's not something outside of our tradition, and that's why I do like this position a lot. But his position is that kufr is a rejection of the truth when the truth is clearly the truth. That kufr is not rejecting something you believe to be false, truly believe to be false. And that's why he said we can't really do ta'yeen of kufr in this world, because we don't know the hearts of people, which is why the dominant opinion is you can't call anybody a kafir in the Ash'ari madhab. In the Maturidi, kufr is a hal. And this is a very interesting distinction in our theology. In the Ash'ari tradition, kufr is a maqam, and iman is a maqam. It's a permanent state. So even when somebody is in a state of kufr, they're actually a mu'min who hasn't realized their iman yet. But the ruh is a believing ruh. It's just at the conscious level, they're still in their heedlessness. And this is why the Ash'aris would say that Abu Sufyan was a believer even when he was fighting the Prophet. He just hadn't realized his state of belief yet. The Maturidi say no, he was a kafir at that time, but he became a believer. And this is why the Ash'ari say you can say, I'm a believer inshallah. And the Maturidi say you can't say that. You have to say I'm a believer, because your state at any given time, you have to be certain of it, that you're a believer. Whereas the Ash'ari is saying in the long run, I don't know. I don't know what my seal is going to be, but I hope that it's going to be a seal of iman. So it's a khilaf lovely in some ways, but it also gets to the root of this idea that you don't know the state of people. So you can be talking to a Jewish person and they're a believer from that first opinion. You could be talking to a Christian person or a Hindu or something and they're a believer, but they don't know it yet. And likewise, somebody can be in a state of kufr in reality and think they're in a state of iman. So Imam al-Ghazali says, because of that, only Allah can judge people on that. And that's why unless the Sharia, unless the Quran or the sound mutawatir sunnah has indicated that somebody is a kafir, like tabbat yada abi lahab, the Quran says that. So we can't debate that. Unless that's clear, we don't know. And that's why you will never, if you look in the seerah and in the hadith, you won't see the Sahaba calling people kuffar, ya kafir. They say, ya adu Allah, O enemy of God. Ya adu nafsika, O enemy of your own self. They don't say, ya kafir. The only time in Sharia that you can say to somebody you're a kafir is if they call you a kafir. because it is kufr to call a mu'min a kafir. Like if somebody says to you, ya sariq, O thief, and it's a lie, you can't say, no, you're the thief. You can only say, anta kadhab, you're a liar. But you can't say you're a thief. But if they say you're a kafir, you can say, but anta kafir. And that's why Ahmed ibn Hanbal said, la ukafiru illa man kafarani. I don't make takfir of anyone unless they make takfir of me. And also Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari, Imam al-Dhahabi in Sirah Alam al-Nubala mentions in Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari's biography that at the end of his life he said, لا نكفر أحدا من أهل القبلة إنما هي ألفاظ نختلف في تأويلها. We don't make takfir of anybody who faces Mecca. These are semantic differences that we're differing about what things mean. But if they say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah and they face Mecca, that I consider them a believer. And Al-Dhahabi, strangely enough, says, وَكَذَلِكَ كَانَ شَيْخُنَا إِبْنُ تَيْمِيَّةَ فِي آخِرِ حَيَاتِهِ. And our teacher Ibn Taymiyyah was like that at the end of his life. كان يقول لا أكفر من يحافظ على الوضوء فإن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يحافظ على الوضوء إلا مؤمن. I don't make takfir of anybody that is consistent in his wudu, because the Prophet ﷺ said nobody is consistent in his wudu except a believer. And a nice word in English for wudu, I mean wudu is becoming a nice word for it. There's actually a word for wudu in English. It's not ablution. Ablution is a horrible word. It sounds ugly. Like you say, I'm going to do ablutions. It sounds so strange. No, there's a beautiful word, luminations. Lumination is a ritual washing in English that makes one shine. And the word for, in Arabic, wudu, is a washing that gives you wada'a, which is a shine. So it's literally a perfect word for wudu in English. I found that a couple months ago, luminations. I was reading a dictionary and said, wow, that's wudu. Lumination, because it's from luminous. But it's a ritual washing that enlightens one, gives them light in their face. So anyway, that I'm just mentioning that in relation to the parents of the Prophet. Now, all the hadiths, and you will find people, I guarantee if you go back to Bradford or wherever you're going to go back to, you're going to find people, yeah, he is right there. The Prophet's parents are in the hellfire. It's in the hadith. Trust me, the ulama have looked at all of these hadiths. So be very careful. Be very careful. The Prophet ﷺ, to say his parents are in the fire is a very, very grave thing. And we believe they're in paradise and they have a high maqam, and that they were believers. And also even Abu Talib, Sheikh Abdullah, and this, I mean, I incline towards that position that he was a believer, but Sheikh Abdullah said tawaqquf, you know, Allahu alam, because the hadiths are strong about it, and so, but Allahu alam, it's you know, Abu Hanifa said وَمُخْرِجُ أَلْفًا مِنَ الْمَلَاحِ وَمُدْخِلُ أَلْفًا مِنَ الْمَلَاحِدَ أَقْرَبُ مِنْ مُخْرِجِ نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. To consider 1,000 people to be believers is better or easier than to consider one believer a kafir. So it's better to make a mistake in 1,000 disbelievers thinking they're believers than to think one believer is a disbeliever. So it's better to err on the side of faith. And that's why in the Hanafi madhab, there's an opinion that anybody that if they call the Prophet, if they just say the Prophet Muhammad, like Karen Armstrong says the Prophet Muhammad, just if they acknowledge his nubuwwah, the Hanafi scholars consider that enough of a testimony, which is why Imam al-Laqani says, وَفُسِّرَ الْإِيمَانُ بِالتَّصْدِيقِ وَالنُّطْقُ فِيهِ الْخُلْفُ بِالتَّحْقِيقِ. That Iman is belief. It's ascension that this is true, and there is a difference of opinion about whether you have to actually articulate your belief. In other words, to say, I believe, or a shahada. So any indication of belief. Imam al-Sawi says that there are 4 categories of human beings. مؤمن عند الله ومؤمن عند الناس مؤمن عند الناس وكافر عند الله مؤمن عند الله وكافر عند الناس and كافر عند الله وكافر عند الناس. He puts them into those 4 categories. There are believers who are believers with God and believers with people. So people, all of you inshallah, are believers with God, and you're believers with the people. And then there's believers with God and disbelievers with the people. So people that are actually mu'minun, but other people think they're disbelievers. Like the Rajul min Ali Fir'aun. The Quran says that he was hiding, yaktumu imanahu, he was hiding his faith. So there's people that do that. They hide their faith. They don't tell people that they're actually a believer. For whatever reasons they do it. And then a believer with people but a kafir with God, which is a munafiq. And then a kafir with people and a kafir with God. So there are people out there that are believers with God, but people don't know that.